Kurt Cobain wasn't just a rock star. He was a reluctant prophet, a grunge-era Socrates for a generation that didn't just want answers, they wanted truth. But behind the torn jeans, the haunting melodies, and the tragic end, lies a philosophy that feels more urgent now than ever. In Kurt's world, the pressure came from record labels, TV interviews, and critics who wanted to mold Nirvana into the perfect rock band. Today, we feel a similar type of pressure, albeit on a different scale. We're told to curate our lives, filter our photos, and optimize every waking moment. But Kurt's philosophy rejected all of that. To him, perfection was a trap, an enemy of authenticity. When Nevermind skyrocketed Nirvana into the mainstream, Cobain famously felt like he had lost control. He despised the idea of his music being consumed by the same system he rebelled against. In response, during live shows, Nirvana would sometimes play their most famous songs out of tune, deliberately botching their hits as if to say, "You can't own us." Whenever I feel like I'm conforming and fighting against my own instincts, I think of Kurt's quote, "Wanting to be someone else is a waste of who you are." This wasn't just a rebellious slogan. It was an existential call to arms, echoing thinkers like Søren Kierkegaard, who warned against losing ourselves in the pursuit of what others expect us to be. Cobain's music wasn't clean or polished. It was raw, imperfect, even chaotic. And that's what made it real. That's what made it fun. And that's what made it resonate with a generation craving authenticity. In his refusal to overproduce, Kurt mirrored the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection, accepting flaws as part of the whole. And if Kurt was still around, I like to think wabi-sabi could have made a cool song title. Cobain didn't start with polished perfection either. His first guitar was bought for just $30, a birthday gift from his uncle. It wasn't flashy or expensive, but it became the instrument through which he poured his soul. That guitar, with its imperfections, is a perfect metaphor for his life. You don't need perfection to create something beautiful. He taught us that our scars, our failures, and our cracks aren't things to hide. They're what make us human, unique, real. But here's the paradox of Kurt Cobain. He was a man who craved connection, yet felt suffocated by it. In his lyrics, you'll find the pain of isolation and the desperate yearning to be understood. I know some may disagree, and Kurt once said his lyrics had no meaning at all. Mulatto, an albino, a mosquito, my libido come to mind here. And sure, there were definitely some lyrics that were deliberately and poetically meant to throw you off course. Then there were others, like in the song Dumb, which still haunt me 30-something years later. You could draw some parallels with some of the tension many of us feel today, caught between the need for likes, followers, and connection, and the hollowness they leave behind. The other day, while I was writing this, I thought about something the philosopher Martin Heidegger called being toward death. Basically, the way we wrestle with finding meaning in a world that can feel pretty meaningless at times. For Kurt, that struggle seemed to pour out of every note he played. Kurt Cobain's rebellion wasn't just musical, it was cultural. In the early 90s, Cobain and his bandmates wore dresses on stage, challenging toxic masculinity and mocking the rigid expectations placed on men. Cobain once said, "Wearing a dress shows I can be as feminine as I want." This wasn't just shock value, as we're used to seeing today. It was a philosophical stance against conformity. By breaking gender norms, Cobain was forcing his audience to question societal rules and embrace individuality. Kurt Cobain's philosophy was one of rebellion, not just against authority, but against the forces that rob us of our humanity. So, what can we learn from him today? 1. Reject the superficial. Stop living for the approval of others. Be raw, be messy, be real. 2. Embrace imperfection. Your flaws aren't weaknesses, they're your story. 3. Create for you, not for them. Cobain didn't play to please the masses. He played for his own enjoyment. There's an undeniable truth we feel when we create for ourselves without a thought of how it will be received by others. But here's the tragedy of Kurt Cobain. Staying true to himself came at a cost. His authenticity made him an icon, but it also made him vulnerable in ways he couldn't bear. Cobain's struggle reminds us that authenticity shouldn't come at the expense of self-compassion or support. It's not enough to encourage others to be themselves. We also need to build a culture that embraces the messiness of being human. I want to leave you with this two-part question. What does authenticity mean to you? And why do you think it's so underrated today?